The day the Zalari ship pierced Earth's atmosphere was clear and brisk. Television screens around the world broadcasted live as the sleek, silvery vessel descended silently over Washington, D.C., casting an elongated shadow that stretched across the National Mall. Jack Turner, a lanky engineer with a scruffy beard, stood among the crowd at the designated landing site. His blue eyes darted between the ship and his colleagues, a mix of government officials and scientists, who shared his mixture of awe and trepidation. Dr. Helen Ruiz, an astrophysicist and Jack's close friend, leaned in, whispering, "Do you believe we're actually seeing this? Aliens, Jack. Real aliens." Jack nodded, pulling a small notebook from his jacket. "It's incredible, Helen, but we need to stay sharp. There's no telling what their intentions are." As the ship's ramp descended with a hiss, two Zalari emerged. They were tall, their skin a shimmering violet, and moved with graceful, deliberate steps. A hush fell over the crowd as they approached. Jack and Helen were joined by Colonel Marcus Webb, the military liaison. "Remember," Webb murmured to them, "keep it diplomatic. We're here to establish peaceful relations." The lead Zalari spoke, their voice clear and melodious. "People of Earth, I am Thalreen. This is my associate, Miquel. We come in peace and wish to share knowledge and culture." Jack stepped forward, extending his hand, a gesture he hoped would translate well. "Welcome to Earth, Thalreen Miquel. I'm Jack Turner, an engineer. This is Dr. Helen Ruiz and Colonel Marcus Webb. We represent Earth." Thalreen's hand met Jack's, their touch cool and smooth. "We are grateful for such a warm welcome. We are eager to learn about your planet and its technologies." Helen chimed in, her tone friendly yet cautious. "And we are just as eager to learn from you. Perhaps we could start by understanding the technology that brought you here, across such vast distances." Miquel nodded, their eyes bright. "Certainly, Dr. Ruiz. We also look forward to exploring your scientific achievements." As the initial pleasantries concluded, Jack noticed a brief, sharp glance between the two Zalari, a look that didn't sit right with him. He scribbled a note in his book before following the group towards the makeshift conference center, his mind racing with possibilities. "Jack, you seem tense," Helen observed quietly as they walked. "I can't shake off the feeling that there's more to their visit than just cultural exchange," Jack confessed. "Did you see that look between them?" Helen frowned. "I did. Let's keep our eyes open and see what we can learn. This is a historic day, but it's also the start of something we need to handle very carefully." Colonel Webb, overhearing their exchange, added, "Agreed. While we need to show our guests hospitality, we also need to protect our interests. I suggest we each play to our strengths. Helen, focus on their scientific claims. Jack, you dig into the tech. I'll keep the talks on track and safeguard our security." Nodding, they entered the conference center, ready to engage in what might be the most important dialogue in human history. As they took their seats across from the Zalari, Jack's pen hovered over his notebook. The meeting would not only shape humanity's relationship with the Zalari, but potentially dictate the future of Earth itself. In the days following the Zalari's arrival, global interest turned to cautious scrutiny. The initial exchanges were cordial, but Jack's suspicions about the Zalari's intentions continued to grow. Convinced that Earth needed a contingency plan, he convened a secret meeting with some of the brightest minds he knew. The venue was a secluded warehouse on the outskirts of the city, repurposed for this clandestine gathering. As Jack set up the last of the security measures, Helen arrived with two other experts, Dr. Leo Cheng, a materials scientist, and Tara Singh, a tactical defense strategist. "Thanks for coming on such short notice," Jack greeted them, checking his watch. "We need to discuss our next steps. The Zalari are advanced, but I think they're hiding something." Tara, always direct, jumped in. "We need a plan that matches their tech, something groundbreaking." Leo rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "What about using unconventional materials, something they wouldn't expect or be prepared to counter?" Helen nodded, intrigued. "Like what, Leo?" "Plastics," Leo said. "They're everywhere, easy to manipulate and under the radar. We could engineer them into something more potent." Jack's eyes lit up. "That's brilliant. We transform common plastic into a disruptive technology. Tara, could we integrate that into some kind of pulse weapon?" Tara began sketching ideas on a digital pad. "If we can manipulate the polymer structure on a molecular level, we could create an energy pulse weapon, non-lethal to organics but devastating to their tech." Helen, always cautious, raised an eyebrow. "It's ambitious. We'll need a prototype, and fast." Jack, can you pull in any favors from your engineering contacts? Jack nodded, already pulling out his phone. I'll make some calls. We'll need a dedicated lab, equipment, and the best minds we can discreetly bring together. As they deepened their planning, the group discussed logistics, potential funding sources, and the need for absolute secrecy. They agreed to meet regularly, updating each other on progress and developments. With the meeting adjourned, they dispersed, each person driven by a mix of fear and determination. Jack watched them leave, feeling the weight of their secret war effort on his shoulders. As he locked up the warehouse, he knew they were racing against time. The Zalari might be preparing their own moves, and Earth had to be ready to defend itself. Back in his improvised lab, Jack was deep into the design phase of the polymer pulse device. His team had grown to include several more engineers and physicists, each contributing their expertise to refine the weapon's core mechanism. The workspace was abuzz with the sound of machinery and excited chatter as each component was meticulously tested. Dr. Leo Cheng approached Jack with an update, holding a tablet that displayed complex diagrams and data. Jack, we've successfully altered the polymer chains to increase their energy conductivity. It's more efficient than our simulations predicted. Jack peered over the data, nodding in approval. Excellent work, Leo. Let's test it under field conditions. We need to know how it behaves outside the lab. Nearby, Helen was overseeing the assembly of the first prototype unit. It was a sleek, cylindrical device, no larger than a briefcase but packed with advanced circuitry and modified plastics. Tara Singh, alongside a team of tactical experts, was setting up the testing grounds, a remote area secured for their experiments. Later that day, the team gathered at the test site. The polymer pulse device was positioned on a stand aimed at a bank of electronic equipment meant to simulate Zalari technology. Ready for test run 1? Tara announced through her headset, her eyes fixed on the control panel. Jack gave a nod, and Helen initiated the sequence. A hum filled the air as the device powered up, and then, with a sharp crackle, a brilliant pulse of light shot forth. The target equipment flickered violently before going completely dark. The team erupted in cheers, exchanging high fives and relieved glances. Jack turned to Helen, a broad smile spreading across his face. It works, Helen. It actually works. Helen's eyes sparkled with excitement, though her voice remained steady. It's a big step, but we have more tests to run. We need to ensure it's consistently effective and safe to deploy. Over the next few weeks, the team conducted numerous tests, refining and adjusting the polymer pulse to maximize its effectiveness. Each successful test brought them closer to a viable defense against the Zalari. As the prototype proved its reliability, Jack documented the results, preparing a detailed report for his trusted contacts in various global defense departments. Despite the urgency of their work, he insisted on thorough documentation and review. This weapon was not just a tool for survival, it was a statement of human ingenuity and determination under threat. While Jack's team was celebrating their progress, unnoticed vulnerabilities began to surface. During a routine security check, one of Jack's technicians discovered a breach in their encrypted communications system. It appeared someone had been relaying information to an unknown external receiver. Gathering his core team in the lab, Jack laid out the evidence. It looks like we have a leak. This could compromise everything we've worked for, he said gravely. Helen's expression was grim as she absorbed the news. Do we know who it is? Not yet, Jack replied, but I've brought in a cybersecurity expert to trace the breach. We need to find out who's behind this and cut them off immediately. The tension in the room was palpable as Tara added, This isn't just about our project's security. It's about Earth's safety. We need to handle this discreetly. Leo, usually composed, showed his frustration. All this work, potentially exposed because of one traitor. Let's tighten our internal security and recheck all team members' credentials. Acting on Leo's suggestion, Jack implemented stricter access protocols and began a discreet review of all team members. The cybersecurity expert, a meticulous and sharp-eyed woman named Dr. Emily Saunders, worked tirelessly to track the digital footprints left by the mole. After a tense week of investigations and heightened security, Emily called a meeting with Jack and the team. I've traced the leak, she announced. It was one of our own, a junior engineer. I've handed over the evidence to Jack. The revelation hit hard, and the atmosphere was charged with a mix of anger and betrayal. Jack addressed the situation. The individual has been taken into custody. We must move forward and focus on our mission. With the mole exposed and the immediate threat neutralized, Jack's team doubled their efforts on the Polymer Pulse project. Despite the setback, their resolve strengthened, knowing the real enemy wasn't just external. They had to be vigilant on all fronts. As they continued their work, Jack maintained a watchful eye on all operations, ensuring that security was tighter than ever. Each test of the Polymer Pulse now included strict oversight and recording, ensuring that no further information could be leaked. In the midst of this crisis, Jack realized that their creation was not just a tool for warfare, but a beacon of human capability and solidarity in the face of adversity. The urgency of their task was clearer than ever. They were not just inventing a weapon, but safeguarding the future of humanity itself. The Zalari made their move just as Earth's defenses seemed impenetrable. Without warning, their ships appeared in the skies above major cities worldwide, deploying advanced technology that disabled electronic devices and caused widespread chaos. At the command center, Jack and his team watched in horror as the first reports came in. The Zalari were using a form of electromagnetic pulse, far more sophisticated than anything Earth had anticipated. "We need to deploy the Polymer Pulse now," Jack declared, his voice steady despite the escalating situation. "Tara, what's the status of our installations?" Tara was already coordinating with military units around the globe. "We're ready to go at your command. All units are on standby to activate the Polymer Pulse defenses." Jack nodded and turned to Helen. "Coordinate with the teams on the ground. Make sure they understand the exact operational parameters. We can't afford any mistakes." As the Zalari advanced, Jack's device was put to the test under real-world conditions for the first time. The activation sequence was initiated, and the Polymer Pulse units began firing sequences of energy bursts designed to disrupt the Zalari's tech without harming humans or the environment. The results were mixed initially. In some areas, the Zalari shields flickered and failed, causing their ships to retreat. In others, the alien technology adapted quickly, neutralizing the pulses. "It's a chess game now," Leo muttered, watching the data stream in. "We need to modify the pulse frequency and amplitude on the fly." Jack agreed, quickly adapting their strategy. "Emily, can you hack into their communication frequencies? We need to predict their next move." Emily, her eyes locked on her screens, nodded. "I'm on it. I'll try to intercept their signals and feed you real-time data." As the battle raged, the world watched. The Polymer Pulse installations began to turn the tide in several key locations. Jack's innovative weapon, born from desperation and clever science, started to give humanity a fighting chance. Amidst the chaos, Jack received a secure video call from a Zalari representative, Thalreen. "Jack Turner, you have forced our hand. We did not wish for conflict, but we cannot ignore your aggressive actions." Jack responded firmly. "You underestimated Earth's will to defend itself. We can end this conflict now with dialogue, not destruction." Thalreen paused, their expression unreadable. "I will convey your message to my superiors. Cease your attacks, and perhaps we can negotiate." As the communication ended, Jack turned to his team. "Keep the pressure up. We need to maintain our advantage while we have it. This is our chance to push for peace on our terms." The siege continued, but now with a glimmer of hope. Jack's quick decisions and the resilience of his team had opened a pathway to potential dialogue, steering the conflict towards a diplomatic resolution. With the Zalari momentarily stalled by the Polymer Pulse, Jack seized the opportunity to launch a counteroffensive aimed at disabling the alien command ship. His plan was bold and fraught with danger, but it promised a significant advantage if successful. Early the next morning, Jack briefed a small elite team assembled for the mission. "Our objective is to board the Zalari command ship, infiltrate their core systems, and install a modified Polymer Pulse device. This will disrupt their network fleet-wide." Helen interjected, ensuring clarity. "This isn't just about knocking out a ship. We need to demonstrate our capabilities, potentially forcing the Zalari to reassess their strategy towards Earth." Tara, suited up in tactical gear, reviewed the mission logistics. "We've got a tight window while their defenses recalibrate. Our approach will be stealth, using low-radar signature shuttles." Jack nodded at Leo, who held up a compact, more potent version of the Polymer Pulse. "We've tuned this for maximum disruption. It's small, but packs a significant punch." The team embarked at dusk, navigating carefully to avoid detection. As they neared the Zalari ship, the tension was palpable, each member aware of the stakes. Upon docking undetected in the maintenance bay, Jack led his team through the dimly lit corridors of the alien vessel. The architecture was a labyrinth of sleek metal and pulsating lights, distinctly non-human. They encountered minimal resistance until reaching the core system's chamber, where a group of Zalari guards suddenly appeared. A brief but intense skirmish ensued. Tara and her team managed to neutralize the threat without casualties, using non-lethal force to maintain the mission's covert nature. Jack installed the device, his hands steady despite the adrenaline. "Okay, initiating the sequence now," he announced quietly. The device hummed to life, its lights blinking in sequence. Seconds felt like hours until finally the ship's internal systems began to sputter and fail. Alarms blared, and the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated. "We need to move, now!" Jack shouted, signaling the retreat. The team raced back to their shuttle, dodging disoriented Zalari crew members. Once aboard, Jack initiated the launch sequence, the shuttle's engines roaring to life as they detached from the failing command ship. As they made their escape, the impact of their sabotage became apparent. Across the battlefront, Zalari ships started to withdraw, thrown into disarray by the loss of command and control. Back at the command center, cheers erupted as the team's shuttle landed safely. Helen embraced Jack, relief and pride evident in her eyes. "You did it, Jack. You all did." Jack, catching his breath, watched the monitors showing Zalari ships retreating into space. "Let's hope this gives us the leverage we need to negotiate peace." The successful mission marked a turning point. Humanity had not only defended itself, but had also taken the fight to the enemy, signaling a new chapter in Earth's resistance. Following the disruptive raid on the Zalari command ship, a temporary ceasefire was established. The Zalari, now recognizing the serious threat posed by human ingenuity, requested a parley. Jack, cautious yet hopeful, agreed to meet aboard the newly repaired Zalari vessel, this time under truce terms. Accompanied by Helen and Colonel Webb, Jack boarded the alien craft, where they were greeted by Thalreen and Mikkel, who seemed more somber than in their initial encounter. "As you have shown considerable capability to defend and attack, we are now prepared to discuss the terms of coexistence," Thalreen stated, leading them through the pristine corridors to a negotiation room. Colonel Webb whispered to Jack as they walked, "Stay on guard, but let's try to end this peacefully." The room was circular, with a transparent ceiling revealing the starry void. The setting was designed to be neutral, yet the alien aesthetics gave the Zalari a home advantage. Jack started the discussion. "Our actions were defensive. Earth must retain sovereignty, but we are open to sharing knowledge and living in peace." Mikkel responded, "Your resilience is admirable. We underestimated your resourcefulness. A mutual agreement would benefit us both." The negotiations were intense, with each side laying out their concerns and terms. Helen took detailed notes, ensuring nothing was overlooked, while Colonel Webb kept a diplomatic but firm tone. After several hours, an agreement was drafted. Earth would gain access to certain Zalari technologies, particularly in medicine and energy, which were non-strategic but could significantly improve human life. In return, the Zalari were granted rights to establish a monitored research base on Earth, strictly for scientific and cultural exchanges, governed by strict Earth-led regulations. As they concluded, Thalreen extended a hand to Jack. "May this be the foundation of our future relationship," they said, a gesture of respect and perhaps a hint of gratitude. Jack shook their hand, feeling the weight of the moment. "Let's hope this is a long and peaceful era." Returning to Earth, the mood among the team was cautiously optimistic. They had achieved what seemed impossible, turning a potential conquest into a partnership. Helen summed it up as they disembarked. "We walked in there with the world on our shoulders and came out with hope for tomorrow." The treaty with the Zalari marked a pivotal moment in Earth's history. As news of the successful negotiations spread, global celebrations erupted. Humanity had not only defended itself against an alien threat, but had also forged a promising alliance. Jack, now hailed as a pivotal figure in Earth's defense and diplomatic efforts, felt a mix of relief and responsibility as he addressed the world in a televised speech. "Today, we stand at the threshold of a new era," Jack proclaimed. "Our encounter with the Zalari has taught us about vulnerability and strength. We've learned that our spirit and creativity can carry us through even the darkest times. This treaty isn't just a safeguard, it's a bridge." In the weeks that followed, the Zalari research base began construction in a remote part of the Sahara, chosen for its minimal impact on local ecosystems and its symbolic representation of new growth. Meanwhile, the technology sharing commenced, with Zalari advancements in renewable energy quickly being integrated into global infrastructure projects. Jack often visited the site, working closely with Zalari engineers and Earth's scientists to ensure that the exchange of knowledge adhered to the treaty's spirit of mutual respect and benefit. Helen joined him on these trips, her expertise invaluable as they navigated the complexities of interstellar technology adaptation. One evening, as Jack and Helen watched a sunset near the construction site, they reflected on the journey they had undertaken. "Do you think we'll ever get used to having aliens as neighbors?" Helen asked, her tone light. Jack smiled, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "I think so. After all, they're not just neighbors, they're partners now, and who knows, someday we might be visiting their home as they have visited ours." Their conversation was interrupted by a call from Colonel Webb, now appointed as the Earth-Zalari Liaison Officer. "The first joint research initiative is set to launch next week," Webb reported. "They're eager to start, and so are we." As Jack ended the call, he looked around at the growing base, a testament to human and Zalari cooperation. The once desolate landscape was transforming into a hub of innovation and cultural exchange. The story of humanity's confrontation with the Zalari had started with fear and suspicion, but ended with collaboration and hope. As Jack and his team continued to work with the Zalari, they were not just protecting Earth, but also leading it into a broader cosmic community. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in human history, it was being written together with another species.